Today on Sports Card Investor, we're halfway through the baseball season, but there's still many baseball card investing opportunities ahead. Today, we tell you where to look. My name is Jeff Wilson. By day, I invest in tech companies, and at night, I invest in sports cards. Join me on my journey to profit from the hobby we all love. Sports Card Investor, and welcome to another episode. It is great to have you here with us today. I really appreciate it, and we have got a jam-packed episode for you today. I am bringing on a very special guest, Phil from the YouTube show Philmington. Now, some of you may have seen Philmington before on YouTube. This guy is a baseball card collecting and investing expert. He gets super deep and super technical with baseball card investing opportunities, and I love it. And I am excited to have him on the show today because I am about to geek out with him, and we are going to talk about what happened the first half of the season and how baseball cards changed in value, and more importantly, where opportunities may lie in the second half of the season. You're going to want to listen to this full interview all the way to the end, because we get into some really good investing content, particularly as we get deeper into the interview. So stay tuned for this. Without further ado, let's jump right in today, and please welcome Phil from Philmington to Sports Card Investor. Phil, welcome back to Sports Card Investor.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. Happy to be here.
It's great to have you back on the show. I've appreciated talking baseball with you in the past, and there is perhaps no greater expert on the baseball card market than you. You do an awesome job on YouTube analyzing it, so I'm excited to talk about what is happening in the world of baseball cards, and I got some questions for you today about that.
Awesome, Jeff. Well, there's a lot happening, so I'm happy to chime in.
There is a lot happening, and obviously one of the big things that has been happening this year is this incredible run on Tatis cards. Fernando Tatis Jr., he has been lights out, surpassing expectations. This was a guy who, you know, there was a fair amount of interest in heading into the season. You know, some people were thinking, you know, this could be potentially a breakout year for him, but his prices were certainly not that of, you know, some of your other young stars who were more proven, like an Acuna or a Soto, but they certainly are today, right? I mean, he has really sailed past all of those guys and kind of cemented himself as the hottest young player within the baseball card market right now. His cards are up 180% over the last 30 days. What are your thoughts on Tatis, and where can he go from here?
Well, undoubtedly, he's a very exciting player. He can do it all between batting average, the power. He's very flashy from a defensive perspective, and he's got a great attitude. So I think he's really great for baseball. Clearly, the hobby hasn't noticed that. I think the question marks coming into this season that kind of kept his value back, I think there might have been two. One were the injury issues. He had two injuries last year. Both were style of play, probably not flukes. And also limited sample size of data versus Soto and Acuna, who by the time the offseason rolled around most recently, they both had a year and a half's worth of stats, where Tatis maybe had 400, 500 at bats max. So I think he definitely deserves his place with respect to market values in the hobby now, because he just is so awesome, and I don't think he's going to slow down anytime soon.
Yeah, he's an incredible character to watch out there as well. He's, you know, just looks a little different on the ball field than many players do, and kind of attracts your eye for that reason. Fun player to watch. Really enjoy watching him. We just mentioned Soto. He's been another guy this year who, in terms of, you know, interest in his cards, he's gone up a lot. He's up 41, almost 42% over the course of the last 30 days in terms of his card prices. Now, he was much more of a known coming into this season after the incredible run he had with the Washington Nationals last year. He had some really big moments in the playoffs and a great World Series, but his cards maybe were still undervalued coming into this year. I thought they were. He was a guy who I liked a lot. He's only 21 years old. Where's Soto going to go from here?
I love Soto. So I made a concerted effort as of probably 8 to 10 months ago to put all my eggs in the Soto basket. Between Acuna and Soto, 95% of my allocation was in Soto. What he showed in the playoffs, it was remarkable. He was doing it against some of the best pitchers. Many of them will be Hall of Famers. He carried that team. It's actually kind of a shame he wasn't World Series MVP. Now, the knock on Soto is he's a little more one-dimensional. Of the three, being Tatis, Acuna, and Soto, I think Soto is going to have the best career from an offensive standpoint. But the defense still needs a little bit of work. The base running, he's never going to be as quick as Tatis or Acuna. And but other than that, I mean, and offense is usually what drives hobby prices. Now, does it drive WAR? Yeah, it mostly drives WAR, and WAR is what usually leads to who wins the MVP and who gets inducted into the Hall of Fame. Not saying it's the right way to do it. It's just what's been happening, especially over the last 3 to 5 years. And not being an above-average defender yet in his career is holding him back a little bit. But I still love Soto so much. He's just so mature from a plate recognition standpoint, or a pitch recognition standpoint. He's got power to all fields. Watching him this year, it actually looks like the postseason never ended. He's hitting breaking pitches to left field over the fence. He's hitting everything with authority. He's barreling up everything. And of those three players, what's kind of crazy is he's batting .400, but he doesn't really have much protection in the lineup. I think Asdrubal Cabrera is sitting behind him. So, I mean, pitchers are probably trying to pitch around him, but they can't, and he's just mashing the ball. He probably would have about 10 home runs right now, but he had to miss that first week or so of games because of illness/COVID. But right. I really like Soto, and I don't think anybody's going to hit .400 this year, but if somebody does, I'll pick him over Blackmon.
Yeah. Well, and Blackmon's another name that's been hot. We'll talk about him in a minute. But so even though Soto has had this, big ascent in card prices this year, it sounds like you think this guy's got a good career. There's still some investment opportunity there.
I do. If you look at last year's stats, this is sort of cherry picking a sample size, but throughout the first couple months of 2019, he was actually struggling with the breaking ball. So pitchers were sort of gaming him a little bit. But he's adjusted, and those issues don't exist anymore, at least not right now. He's in a hot streak. We'll see how long it lasts for Tatis as well. But these are the three guys. These are generational players that you want right now.
Well, so speaking of the third one of those, Acuna, a little bit of a different story this year than Soto or Tatis, right? Acuna, obviously he's injured right now. His cards have been soft this season compared to those other guys. In fact, he's now really starting to lag behind Soto and Tatis pretty significantly in terms of the prices of a lot of his cards. Is this just a short-term blip and Acuna's going to return to form as one of the hottest young stars in the hobby, or do we need to be a little concerned here for some reason?
So regarding the market values, I think because we dealt with such a long offseason with COVID, people kind of forgot that on-the-field performance usually correlates to card prices. Maybe not 100%, but there's definitely a correlation there. So when I had said this in one of my videos, I was like, just because there's a hierarchy of Acuna and Soto doesn't mean it's always going to be like that. Things could change. Bellinger could supersede those two, and now we've seen Tatis do it. So with Acuna, I'm not too concerned with the injuries. I'm not too concerned with the underperformance, which we've seen from him this year. Of all three guys, that would be the one that I'd probably be buying right now. Now, I do have some issues with his attitude, maybe his work ethic a little bit that he showed in the playoffs, but I'd be okay with calling that a blip on the radar and going ahead and buying some Acuna right now, because I mean, this has been a very odd season. Players' conditioning has been all messed up. Maybe they don't have the ability to perform. There's the usual regimens that they have before the game or between games. And it's been really challenging, I think, for players to prepare for the season. So, and also having said that, I mean, slumps usually last in excess of 1 or 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So just because Acuna wasn't killing it yet, their slumps aren't going to be prorated just because the season is. So if his overall stat line isn't that great, I'm not going to really think any less of Acuna. And the same goes for some other guys like Christian Yelich, Cody Bellinger. these guys aren't going to win the MVP this year, but am I going to just sell low on all those guys? Like, no. If anything, I would do the opposite. What this season has showed me, and I think it's a combination of new, inexperienced people in the hobby. I think it's a combination of some sports gamblers that have crossed over, some fantasy stat geeks that have come over from daily fantasy leagues where they've had more of a short-term mindset. I've seen the swings in price values be extremely volatile. It's almost like Manny Machado we were talking about before the episode started. His prices are up. He's a top 10 mover. Well, he was National League Player of the Week last week. We already knew what Machado was. He's kind of a streaky guy. Does it surprise you that he has a really good week? Probably not. So Christian Yelich and Bellinger are going to have those weeks where they have 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, and their prices are going to go up right on up. Because as we've seen it, I mean, I'm a member of so many Facebook groups where people transact with cards, and guys like Shane Bieber, Ian Happ, Zach Plesac, Brandon Lau, some of these guys are over 25 years old. These guys weren't in the common market interest. They didn't have a ton of hobby appeal last year, but their prices are going up, in some cases 2 or 3x, because of just short-term performance. Trevor Story's another one. Aaron Judge, of course, the Yankee factor, but he's another one I've seen.
Yeah, no, you're right. The hobby is much more reactive to even literally a single game, a one big night, and the hobby is much more reactive to that today than it ever has been before in its history. And I think you're right. It's the new people coming in, it's fantasy sports players, it's gamblers, it's people who are used to, in fantasy sports, if a guy has one good performance, then everyone's trying to pick him up on the waiver wire the following morning. So if people are equating that over, then one good performance and go buy the guy's cards, right? I agree with you the way, and I almost hate to even talk about this, on the air, and because obviously so many people are gonna see these opportunities now, but good for everyone out there watching who does. There's in my opinion, the way to make money in this market right now across all sports is to look at the players who the market just suddenly left behind because their most recent performances didn't live up to expectation. To equate that over to the basketball world, I think there's some very good value right now with some of the guys who have gotten bounced from the bubble. Guys like Zion and Ja and Devin Booker. There's a lot of really good, Jaren Jackson Jr., a lot of really good quality players that got bounced out of the bubble after a disappointing performance in some cases there. And now their cards are down 20, 30, 40%. Like literally, they're down 20, 30, 40% from where they were a couple of weeks ago because the hobby has moved on from those people, and now they're chasing all of the players that are still playing in the playoffs. And my thinking as an investor is some of those names of the guys that I just mentioned, those are going to be big names again next year. There's no doubt about it that those are going to be massive names next year. So why are we giving up on those guys today? I think as an investor who's thinking beyond the next game or the next week, and you're thinking all the way to the next season and beyond, in the world of baseball, a guy like Acuna, some of the other guys you just mentioned, there is value to be had there right now.
Oh, for sure. I thought about this a little bit, and looking at the emergence of platforms like, COMC has been around for a while, but also Star Stocks, that allows you to transact quicker without taking physical delivery of what you're buying. And I think that's great for the hobby, especially given the eBay monopoly that they sort of have. That allows for prices to react a little bit quicker, especially to those that have that short-term nature of trading.
They do. Yep. Oh, it is. That's what it is. It's a little bit, both COMC and as you said, Star Stock, you have that option of doing kind of almost a day trading approach to sports cards. And by the way, I just talked about it in my last episode where the Champions League finals in soccer were last week, and literally when what turned out to be the winning goal was scored, people were on COMC and on, they were buying cards up like that very minute. Like that's how reactive people are to things happening in the games now. They're looking for these short-term flipping opportunities, which is great, and it's a whole lot of fun, but it also leaves open opportunity for investors who are going to think beyond tomorrow and are going to think perhaps, a little bit longer term. And by longer term, I don't mean forever. I mean, just think about next season. Like think about, who the big names are going to be heading into next year and cards you can pick up today potentially for a value. By the way, just want to remind the listeners that we have a promo with Star Stock. If you haven't tried them yet, if you use referral code SCI for Sports Card Investor, when you register, you can earn bonus cash on starstock.com. So definitely check them out and use the referral code SCI. Yeah, it's interesting stuff. Let me look down here. I'm going to bring up Market Movers, our data platform, and I want to look down some of the other guys. This is what we're looking here at is the price movements over the last 30 days. So these are the cards, these are the players who have gone up the most. And I know you can't see this, Phil. I'm just going to recite some of these to you. So we obviously talked about Tatis. He's by far the top guy at 180%. Bo Bichette at a 50% increase. Any thoughts on Bichette?
He's a guy I really liked. If I could have bought and invested in every single player that I liked, then I would probably end up diluting the guys that I really wanted to invest in the most. So I don't own a ton of Bichette, but I really loved the Series 1 release this year, in part because I love the star power that he had. He's actually injured right now, but I think people expect him to recover. I think he had a span where he hit home runs in like 4 straight games. He was also hitting like 350. So limited sample size last year. Maybe people didn't know that he had a ridiculous amount of extra base hits. People didn't know if that was a little bit flukish. I tended to think that it wasn't. And I think people are noticing now that, he might end up being better than Vlad Guerrero Jr. So I think people just changed their hierarchies. And that kind of happens with baseball where it's like, all right, well, Albies, he's never going to be Acuna. Freddie Freeman's never going to reach Acuna level. So they get devalued and the other one kind of increases because of that. So maybe that's some of what we're seeing. Also very young. He's a shortstop. And there's not much not to like.
Yeah, absolutely. You then got Soto, and then we already talked about Manny Machado. Joey Bart, a strong showing this year at a 32% increase, and then Kyle Lewis at 27, almost 28%. Thoughts on Joey Bart and Kyle Lewis?
Joey Bart's somebody, so big power hitting prospect, a little bit older than some of the other guys that have been coming up that we're going to probably mention. But he's a great hitting prospect, and he definitely benefited from the universal DH being adopted by the National League. Probably wasn't correctly reflected in his market values yet till he got called up. But what I'm noticing with some of these players that have been called up, and most of the notables have been called up, sort of been like staggered, like each day or two you'll see like Christian Pash get called up. For instance, Christian Pash is a guy, Braves, good market. His price is tripled, actually, I thought, with the Bowman Chrome autographs, and that happened like overnight. So it's almost like people are forgetting about these maybe tier 1 or tier 1A type prospects. People knew Adele was coming up, but forgot about Bart a little bit, slept on Pash, and then the prices overreacted a little bit. So with Bart, I wouldn't be buying him right now. I'd be waiting for him to struggle a little bit if that happens. I'm not wishing that it happens, but for prices to come back down, and the Giants are actually a great market, not a good team, but a great market themselves. And they have some bright prospects in the future. They'll be a great team in 2 or 3 years again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I should mention, by the way, I've got this list filtered so that there has to be, this is popular players. This is players over a certain sales volume, so we're not seeing some prospects who just have, autos and everything out there necessarily. We're seeing, the players that are transacted a little bit in a higher volume because of the filter that I set up. Kyle Lewis.
He had a great September last year, a lot of power. Didn't have a ton of power in his minor league resume. He's a guy that he wasn't even the top outfield prospect for the Mariners. As a matter of fact, he could actually have been at the time like 3 or 4. He was after Evan White, I thought. And of course, they have Jared Kelenic and Julio Rodriguez. But he's been killing it this year. And that's why they play the games, because these advanced stats, they don't predict everything. His prices now, I saw in a Facebook group, somebody was trying to sell his base non-autographed Bowman Chrome first, which could be a topic for a different video because those cards across the board have been going crazy. Probably various factors, but people are trying to sell that Kyle Lewis card from 2016 Bowman Draft, the Chrome version, for $15. For me, it's too much to pay. For me, $5 for a Series 1 rock card is probably still too much to pay. I'd rather put that money in somebody like Gavin Lux, who is one of the notable prospects who hasn't been called up yet. And I think he's due for a surge, or even Yordan Alvarez or Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette's price has probably gone up by now, but
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting. Uh, Finally, to kind of round it out, talking about players who have been hot the first bit of the year, a couple of the sluggers for the Yankees. Obviously, you have Aaron Judge. He's on this list over the last 30 days as a 25% increase. And then right at the beginning of the season, you had Stanton come out and hit some massive home runs, to lead the season off. And I know his cards went up went up quite a bit right at that point at time. What do you think about those guys? What do you think about their prospects as we go forward into the postseason?
So Giancarlo Stanton, he can't get out of his own way. At one point, I was watching MLB Network, and they just showed the long list of injuries he suffered. And I was thinking at first, like, oh, a lot of them are probably fluke injuries. I know he was hit in the face of the ball, but there's been a lot of lower body muscle injuries too. So it's almost like the same old story. Different year, same smell with Giancarlo Stanton. He's not that old yet, and he has such great potential. And given that people are trading based off short-term tendencies, there could be some profit ability there. I probably wouldn't be investing in him with like a one-year exit strategy. And the Yankees just have so many other guys. He is on the Yankees, but the Yankee fans don't consider him the team. They consider Aaron Judge the team, or Gleyber Torres the team, with the possibility to take over the team, be the next captain, whatever maybe. And that part about Judge is what keeps him relevant. It's the performance. Yeah, that helps, of course. He's always going to produce when he's healthy. He's never going to be a Hall of Famer. He's missed the boat there, I would say. Maybe some people will argue with me, but I don't think he's going to be a Hall of Famer. But he's a great leader. He's the face of the franchise 10 times more than Giancarlo Stanton is. He's literally on the face of way more Topps products these days than Giancarlo Stanton will ever be featured in again if he stays on the Yankees. So Judge has that Yankee appeal. He'll always be the Yankees guy. Even if he's not a Hall of Famer, he'll always have a lot of fans. So Judge, his prices right now, no, I'm out. I'm waiting for, is he injured right now, or is he coming back for an injury? He might get injured again. I'm out on Aaron Judge personally.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. And I want to talk a little bit about what might happen the second half of the season, maybe some guys who could emerge, and maybe a little thought of what you think in the playoffs. But first, I got to go real geeky on you, and I got to ask you a couple of questions about card price comparisons between players across sets. Because as I have delved into the data in my Market Movers data platform, I have seen some weird patterns in baseball cards that do not exist in the other sports. If you look at, for example, in basketball, if you look at, let's say, Luka Doncic versus Trae Young, the two top guys from the 2018 class, even though now you got some new guys like Michael Porter Jr., emerging into those ranks as well. But let's just keep it simple and say Luka and Trae. We know that Luka is more valuable than Trae, and that was true even before Luka's amazing surge in the bubble here in recent days. And Luka would be more valuable than Trae across every single set, across every single variation. It was consistent. Luka was always going to be more valuable than Trae. And the ratio of a Luka card to a Trae card was going to stay fairly consistent across sets, across variations. The data shows it within Market Movers. You can look at any set, any variation, you're going to see a similar type of ratio between Luka and Trae. Not the case with baseball. And I pulled out some specific examples here. So I specifically did a price comparison of Fernando Tatis, and I by the way, need to credit my team for this. Shout out to Teapot on my team. Tyler did an awesome job with analyzing a lot of this data. We compared Tatis, Soto, Bellinger, and Acuna, right? And a couple of things stand out that just super odd. Like, for example, Topps Chrome base card. And these are PSA 10s with very, very recent sales. So we're looking at apples to apples data here. Tatis's Topps Chrome base card most recently sold for $290, and Juan Soto was $281. So Tatis is 3% more. However, Juan Soto's pink refractor most recently sold for $700, and Tatis is only sold for $500. Why? Like, why would in the pink refractor Soto be going for 40% more, yet in the base card Tatis is going for 3% more? Is this just some weird anomaly, or is there like what is some potential reasoning behind this one?
The one thing I can think of is regular Topps Chrome in 2019 potentially had a larger print run of the pinks. On Blowout, the guys did the math probably over a year ago with Soto, where that pink card that you're talking about from Topps Chrome Update, the HMT 55, that has, they speculate the print run to be around 2,500. With Tatis, it's potentially featured in maybe different configurations. Maybe they made more of one than the other. But these are retail configurations only. The pinks weren't actually available in the hobby, as far as I know. So there's a chance where they just, the way that they, produce different configurations of value packs versus blasters versus megas, it could have been higher with 2019, especially since it's also a year later. Print runs for Topps with products, especially Topps Chrome and Topps Chrome Update, they've gone up a ton. Somebody did the math on a video I was watching where in 2019, and they did this all off the back of the pack of the card where it gives you the superfractor odds. They speculate that the print run increased 67% from 2018 to 2019, talking about Topps Chrome Update. So yeah, we're talking Topps Chrome here with Tatis, but that would be the only thing I can think of. Some of it might also be it just takes a while for things to adjust. So the fact that the base card with Tatis is selling for 300 and a PSA 10, 300-ish, maybe people are kind of waiting to see if that's a legitimate price. Is it going to stay there? Will it stabilize there? If so, then I will apply my multiplier of whatever it is, 2.5x to get to the pink. And a lot of the times the base card, all the time almost, the base card will react first, and then there's a bunch of bargains to be had. For instance, I just purchased a Tatis Series 2 Gold. I took advantage of market inefficiencies twice because I know that the PSA 10 multiplier from base to gold with the 2019 flagship sets, I know the multiplier is about 7.5-ish. It's been that for the most part of the last year. There was a time when a bunch of the base cards got pumped and that was broken, but then it went back to about a 7.5x ratio. So when Tatis's number 410 Series 2 card in a PSA 10 started selling for like 275, I'm like, all right. So I'm looking at the golds. They're still at 1,300. They should probably be closer to like 1,700. I'm wiggling in some ability for that base card to go down. I'm like, even if that base card goes back down to like 200 or 250, I still have some chance to make some money. There haven't been any gold sales. And I picked up a BGS 10 of that card. So people a lot of times don't understand the multipliers from PSA 10 to BGS 10. Well, it's a Pop 11 card. PSA 10 goals for Tatis are over 200. With paper, you're looking at a multiplier of close to 2 times. If it was a Chrome surface card with better card stock, where there's going to be a lot of PSA 10s in population, anyways, a ton of high quality cards, you're looking at a 1.5x multiplier. So I bought a BGS 10 of that Tatis for a little bit more than what a PSA 10 should have been selling for. Not actual comps, but should have been selling for $2,000. Sold it 10 days later for 3,300. Probably would have held it for longer, but it was an example of a card that it was very overgraded. It didn't look like a BGS 10. So Beckett, I don't know if they dropped the card before they slabbed it, but that's how you make money from market inefficiencies. It's not always about speculating. These are the guys that I need to buy, irrespective of the price. It's you gotta always play the market inefficiency. You can do both, but if you win on the inefficiency side, you win on the speculation of the player side, you win twice. So.
Yeah, and I agree, and I don't know, Phil, if you've gotten to play with that feature we put into Market Movers. Have you played with the ratios feature at all?
I have checked it out. Yes, it's very interesting. I mean, I haven't dabbled with it too much.
Yeah, I mean, it essentially does that. So if you do a search for a player like Tatis and you check all of his different variations, it will give you that, it will show you that multiplier right away between his, base card and all the different variations. It will also show you the multiplier between his raw card and his PSA 10, his PSA 10 and his PSA 9, his PSA 10 and his BGS 10, etc. and then you can compare all of those multipliers across all of whoever else you want to bring into the search. So in fact, one interesting way to use it is to look at an entire rookie class together, because that way you're isolating the same year and the same set. And then you look across that same year and same set, and then look at all of those multipliers across every single player in that year and set. And you oftentimes find inefficiencies where the market has just not corrected on a certain variation of a player's card. And just like the story you gave with Tatis, there's opportunity to buy before the market, self-corrects itself. So,
especially with so many inexperienced people in the hobby, that a lot of the times they're just told to buy the PSA 10 version.
Right.
With basketball, I was able to buy Devin Booker, his Silver Prism rookie, in a True Gem Plus for way less than half the price, or about half the price of a PSA 10.
Yep.
It was actually less than a recent comp of PSA 9. So there's always opportunities to take advantage of that.
Yeah, for sure. And we build all of that into the Market Movers data platform. If anyone out there is interested in checking it out, please go to sportscardinvestor.com and click on Market Movers. You can learn all about it. All right, one more data oddity. Now this one might be a little more explainable. This is across sets, but I found it interesting that in almost every single set right now, Acuna's rookies are trading at a lower price than Tatis, or in many cases Soto, or even Bellinger, except for one. If you go to Topps Heritage and look at his refractor, number to 569, that is the one area where Acuna is actually selling for more than Tatis or Soto or Bellinger, whereas even other variations of Heritage, he's selling for less than those guys. Any insight onto why? And it's a substantial difference. Like Acuna's at $1,250, and then Tatis is at $1,099, Soto's at $975, Bellinger's all the way down at $235, and these are recent sales, so of PSA 10s.
Yeah, I think you're talking about somewhat of an illiquid card that doesn't sell too much, number to 569. I think we're talking about a situation where the market just hasn't reacted to Soto and Tatis and driven those values up.
All right, so there, maybe another arbitrage opportunity for people who are out there watching. Maybe there's more value in some of those heritage cards for some of those other players, with Acuna setting the bar there, but clearly not setting the bar in these other areas. All right, we'll get...
Right, and heritage is often the last adopter of these market value changes. You could go even as far as to say that the refractors within each set will adopt last with a lot of these swings. So I think that makes a lot of sense actually with heritage is more rare cards.
Yeah, interesting. Well, the sports card market is so interesting because you can look at all of these patterns in the data, find inefficiencies, and also, as you said, find leading indicators. Like a lot of times in basketball, it's the Prism Silver that is a leading indicator, and then you've got the base and then other variations that's movements are lagging behind what the silver's doing. And so if you're watching these charts every day and you're watching, what's happening with these price movements, you can sometimes see leading indicators that then may indicate, and maybe with heritage, it's lagging behind the market, but that may mean there's buying opportunity there.
Right.
So, all right, well, let's turn our attention to, just for the last couple minutes here, just want to hear any reflections on any predictions for the second half of the season. Players you think could break out, teams you think could have a surprisingly strong run into the playoffs.
So I'm kind of reticent to be overly speculative here, because if we take a step back, we're entering early September, which is, baseball is very cyclical. Towards the end of every season is when sometimes you see the last great selling opportunity for a lot of these players. So right now, the Dodgers have the best run differential in baseball. I don't think they're going to slow down anytime soon. They might actually get healthier and better. I think their run differential is 2 times greater than any other team. In the American League, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Red Sox fan, but I think Tampa Bay is going to make a run, win that division. I think they're going to go deep in the playoffs. Oakland A's look very strong as well. Those would be the teams that I would be putting, if you were speculating on guys reaching the playoffs and maybe making an impact, I'd be going for guys in that situation. But I'm actually a little bit in selling mode with some of the things that I have. A lot of it is in like a rebalancing effort, and I'm not going to go too much into this, but I think we as investors, sometimes we make a mistake in treating each card as, or looking at your portfolio on a card by card basis. Sure, it's great to have a plan and an exit strategy for each card. Maybe it's not a blanket, 2.5x across everybody, just making that up. But if you were to apply a card by card strategy, then you kind of lose sight of what you want your portfolio to be, how much exposure you want to have. If you're really going to treat your sport cards like an investment portfolio, how much exposure do you want to have to certain grading companies, PSA versus Beckett versus raw cards, versus different sports, wax versus singles. And within cards, there's the risky guys, there's the less risky established players, there's the non-current or vintage players. But if I'm going to talk about, if you're going to ask me about what guys I think are undervalued right now, I think, as we talked about earlier in this episode, Acuna, Yelich, Bellinger, Devers, guys that could take over their team for a week or so, guys that are that good. People forget that Yelich was the best offensive player for 2 straight years in the National League by most advanced metric standards. Non-current or veterans, Kershaw, Pujols is on the brink of breaking or meeting milestones and passing people in pretty significant stat leaderboards. Miguel Cabrera, Ichiro, if we're going to go a little bit older, and non-current, David Ortiz. I know a lot of your viewers watch basketball. Tim Duncan, he was a guy that was undervalued till he wasn't anymore. Yeah, and, it's like he was a boring investment, and nobody was talking about him. Then all of a sudden, his Prism-based PSA 10 probably went up 10x in like a year, which is probably more than – it's probably like equal or more than what Luka did, which is crazy because everybody's talking about Luka. But yeah, Ichiro, Pujols, the Topps cards. I know in an episode you had talked about, and you turned my eye to Ichiro's 2001 Topps base card and a PSA 9.
Unbelievably undervalued. Yep.
Yeah, and that's gone up quite a bit, but it probably has more room to go. If we're going to talk about specific cards, so Bryce Harper, he's a guy that's very streaky, kind of like Giancarlo Stanton. Probably doesn't get injured as much, but he's a guy that won MVP, and I think 2017, 2018, and he's a guy that has been doing really well this year. He could make a run for MVP. He has a very coveted flagship rookie card, which usually never goes up for auction, but I think people are trying to take advantage of that, and there's now 3 listed. I've been watching this card for 6 months. It's 661A short print flagship card from 2012 Topps Series 2, I believe. And this is a card, again, it's less printed than Acuna's Bat Down, and I think it's one that somebody could end up getting a steal on. So as of recording this episode, there's 3 listed. There's one that's going to be expiring tonight that I'm going to make a run for that you guys won't see. It's the PSA 10. We'll see how much that goes for. Nolan Arenado, Francisco Lindor, guys that I just think are always going to be undervalued. I like them a lot. And 2 other guys that I'm speculating on just to keep it fun. Kyle Tucker, Carter Kieboom. Those guys are both, I'd consider them post-hype cases where they were formerly top 10, top 20 prospects. People forgot about them because they disappointed the first time, but they're in a position to do really well this year with Kyle Tucker, especially without Yordan Alvarez. He's got a starting spot in the lineup right now. He's 22 RBI. One of the other areas for opportunity, I think, is, so I did some research on my channel. I looked at data over the last 6 months and the last 18 months, and I wanted to prove my thesis of Topps flagship cards are outperforming Bowman Chrome autographs. And that was, for the most part, the case. But when I looked at this data, and I looked at it for PSA 10s only, and I looked at it for 5 key players, Mookie Betts, Bellinger, Lindor, Acuna, and Wander Franco, I also looked at their base Bowman Chrome non-autograph card in a PSA 10. And what I found is that over the last 6 months, those cards, for the most part, have outperformed not just the Bowman Chrome autograph, but also the flagship key rookie card. For Mookie Betts, it's the US 26 or 2014 Topps Update, for example. Wander Franco doesn't have one yet. The other guys do. But I thought it was very interesting. So and this could be due to many factors that the base Bowman Chrome non-autograph card in a PSA 10 is getting interest. It could be because of Jason Dominguez and Luis Robert and Acuna, those prices started to come up. Could be because of some influencers. It's really hard to isolate any of that out of it, or if there's some market manipulation. But I think that Bowman Chrome not autograph cards, especially of guys that haven't reacted. We talked about market inefficiencies. So Tatis, his is selling for about $600, where his Series 2 PSA 10 is selling for about $250 right now. The PSA 10, the Series 2 card has a pop of about $7,000. The Bowman Chrome card is a pop of about $1,000. So it kind of makes sense that it would be selling for a little bit more than double. It makes sense to me. So where a lot of people would be like, wow, that's $600. It was like 150 2 months ago.
Sure.
But I think people are starting to adopt this theme of the Bowman Chrome non-autograph card. Maybe it's because new people that have come over from basketball have really liked the Chrome design. They're better looking cards to look at, most people would say, versus flagship, although, there is Topps Chrome as well. But it's something that we've seen. Water Franco's now selling for about $150. That's got a pop of $7,000. If you want to look for an undervalued version of this card, I would point you to Christian Yelich. He's got a pop of $250. That's 10% of what his Topps Update card from 2013 sells for. Again, we're talking PSA 10s. Yet it's selling for $150, where the Topps Update card is selling for almost double. It's come down maybe like $250, $275. So where in most cases, with Tatis, 15% as many Bowman Chrome versus the flagship rookie. Acuna, it's 33%. You're looking at 5,000 versus 15,000 from Topps Update. That's justifying the market values to be a little close, and in many cases in favor of the Bowman Chrome base. But with Yelich, it's 10% as popular. And the pop's not going to increase anytime soon. We're talking about a card from a product that's 10 years old,
right,
that was ridden with surface issues and centering issues. So that's just something that I thought there might be opportunity with. Also with Bowman Chrome not autographed colors, the original colors and the true colors. Talking about refractors, hopefully numbered to 499, or 500, maybe not. But the blue, the gold, the orange, the red superfractor, if you can find it. We're not talking about shimmers or waves. We're talking about the true colors. I think those in PSA 10 could be good buying opportunities as well. That's a lot of what I've been purchasing lately.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you love knowledge like this, you have to subscribe to Philmington on YouTube, because he just drops some awesome knowledge upon all of us. Phil, tell people how they can find you.
So I am on mostly on YouTube. I'm also on Instagram as well. I'm on eBay. I have the same handle, Philmington. So it should be easy to find me. I try to upload content when I can. Sometimes it'll be oriented towards investors, sometimes collectors, sometimes open products. But usually I'm always trying to provide some thought leadership or commentary on what's going on in the marketplace.
Awesome. It's awesome stuff. And I really appreciate you joining the show. Love it. And look forward to having you back on again soon.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you liked the data and information that we looked at and analyzed in today's episode, then you are going to love Market Movers, the sports card data platform by us here at Sports Card Investor, which is where all of that data that we looked at on the screen came from today. And we would love to have you as a Market Mover subscriber so you can access that data and tons more, as well as manage your collection and see up-to-date pricing on your collection around the clock. It is an awesome tool. Go to sportscardinvestor.com and click on Market Movers for more information. Again, go to sportscardinvestor.com and click on Market Movers in the main menu bar. Thanks so much, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you back in a couple of days with our next one. Take care.